Anna Eleanor Roosevelt was born on October 11th, 1884, in New York City into one of America's most prominent families. Her father, Elliot Roosevelt, was the younger brother of Theodore Roosevelt, who would later become the 26th President of the United States. Her mother, Anna Hall Roosevelt, was a woman of beauty and high society, but she had little patience for Eleanor's quiet demeanor and shyness. From the very beginning, Eleanor's childhood was marked by contrasts: privilege and loneliness, wealth and emotional deprivation. As a young girl, Eleanor often felt out of place. She was not the conventional beauty her mother adored, and she grew up believing she was plain and awkward. Her mother's coldness only deepened her sense of isolation. However, Eleanor had a close bond with her father, Elliot. He adored her, called her Little Nell, and showered her with affection, but his struggles with alcoholism and mental health created instability in their lives. When Eleanor was just 8 years old, tragedy struck. Her mother died of diphtheria, and less than 2 years later, her beloved father passed away as well. Orphaned by the age of 10, Eleanor's world was shattered. After her parents' deaths, Eleanor was sent to live with her grandmother, Mary Ludlow Hall, in Tivoli, New York. Her life in her grandmother's house was strict, but it lacked the warmth she craved. Yet this period also planted the seeds of resilience in young Eleanor. She began to observe the world differently. She understood pain, loss, and the silent suffering of others. This empathy would one day define her legacy. At 15, Eleanor's life took a transformative turn when she was sent to Allenswood Academy, a boarding school in England. There she met Marie Souvestre, the school's headmistress, a woman who profoundly influenced her. Souvestre encouraged Eleanor to think critically, to engage with the world, and to develop a sense of purpose beyond societal expectations. Eleanor thrived under her guidance, shedding some of her shyness and beginning to find her voice. She later credited Allenswood with shaping her into the woman she became. Returning to New York in 1902, Eleanor faced the expectations of high society, but she no longer fit perfectly into its mold. That same year, she encountered her distant cousin, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Franklin, charming, ambitious, and full of energy, was instantly drawn to Eleanor's sincerity and intelligence. Their courtship was discreet, as Franklin's mother, Sarah Delano Roosevelt, disapproved of the match. Nevertheless, the two were married on March 17, 1905, with former President Theodore Roosevelt giving the bride away. Marriage to Franklin brought Eleanor into a new world, one of political ambition and public life. At first, she embraced the traditional role of wife and mother. Between 1906 and 1916, she gave birth to 6 children, though one, Franklin Jr., died in infancy. As Franklin pursued his political career, Eleanor managed their household and raised their children. But as the years passed, she grew restless. She loved her family, yet she felt confined by the limited role society allowed women. In 1918, Eleanor's life changed dramatically when she discovered Franklin's affair with her social secretary, Lucy Mercer. The revelation devastated her. She considered divorce, but ultimately chose to remain in the marriage, not out of submission, but because she recognized the broader implications for Franklin's rising political career and her children's future. This painful episode, however, marked a turning point. Eleanor resolved to build a life of her own, one defined not by her husband's ambitions, but by her own ideals and passions. During World War I, Eleanor threw herself into volunteer work. She visited wounded soldiers, organized relief efforts, and worked with the Red Cross. This experience opened her eyes to suffering beyond her own circle, and she found purpose in helping others. As Franklin climbed the political ladder, first as Assistant Secretary of the Navy, then as Governor of New York, and eventually as President of the United States, Eleanor evolved into a force in her own right. When Franklin was struck by polio in 1921, leaving him paralyzed from the waist down, many believed his political career was over. But Eleanor refused to let despair consume them. She became his political partner, acting as his eyes and ears, traveling on his behalf, building networks, and keeping his name alive in public service. Her determination not only revived Franklin's career, but also cemented her own path as an advocate for social justice. In 1933, Franklin Delano Roosevelt was inaugurated as the 32nd President of the United States, and Eleanor became First Lady. Traditionally, the role of First Lady was ceremonial, hosting teas, managing the White House social calendar, but Eleanor redefined it entirely. She traveled across the country, visiting coal mines, migrant camps, and impoverished communities. She wrote a daily newspaper column, My Day, giving her unfiltered views to millions of readers. She held press conferences exclusively for female reporters, ensuring women journalists had access to the White House. Eleanor championed causes often considered controversial for her time: civil rights, labor rights, women's rights. She invited African American leaders like Marian Anderson and Mary McLeod Bethune to the White House, defying segregationist norms. In 1939, when the Daughters of the American Revolution refused to allow Marian Anderson, a black opera singer, to perform at Constitution Hall, Eleanor publicly resigned from the organization and helped arrange for Anderson to sing at the Lincoln Memorial instead, an event that became an iconic moment in the fight for racial equality. As World War II engulfed the world, Eleanor took on an even greater role. She toured military bases both in the United States and abroad, visiting troops in the Pacific, in Europe, and in war hospitals. Soldiers called her Our Eleanor because she spoke to them as a friend, not as a figurehead. Her compassion, courage, and tireless work during the war earned her admiration worldwide. When Franklin died suddenly on April 12, 1945, Eleanor was heartbroken. She later admitted, "The story is over." But history proved otherwise. Her greatest contributions were still to come. After Franklin's death, President Harry S. Truman appointed her as a delegate to the newly formed United Nations. There, she played a pivotal role in drafting the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, adopted in 1948. As chair of the UN Human Rights Commission, she fought tirelessly to ensure that the document would stand as a beacon for human dignity across the globe. For the next 2 decades, Eleanor remained a powerful voice for justice. She wrote books, gave lectures, and continued advocating for civil rights, women's equality, and humanitarian causes. She advised presidents, supported the Peace Corps, and never stopped traveling to places where people needed help. She once said, "Where, after all, do universal human rights begin? In small places, close to home. Unless these rights have meaning there, they have little meaning anywhere." Eleanor Roosevelt passed away on November 7, 1962, at the age of 78. At her funeral, attended by presidents past and present, dignitaries and ordinary citizens alike, Adlai Stevenson, U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, delivered a tribute that captured her legacy. She would rather light a candle than curse the darkness, and her glow warmed the world. Today, Eleanor Roosevelt is remembered not merely as a first lady, but as a transformative figure, a woman who turned personal pain into purpose, privilege into service, and a quiet, insecure girl into one of the most influential voices of the 20th century. Her life reminds us that true greatness lies not in power, but in the courage to stand up for what is right, even when the world is against you.